Commanders, man. Eric Bieniemy left Kansas City after winning the Super Bowl and joins the Washington Commanders. All right, it's been talks all weekend, all week really after the Super Bowl about this happening, and it happened. All right, so the question is basically, is this a good move for Eric Bieniemy? And I want to start this off, being so I'm a Commander fan. Yeah, you hear me, right? So I'm excited about this. But look, though, before I get into football reasons, obviously, Tom and David, there's some racism going on. We know that. All right. There's definitely some racism going on. I mean, there's no way you could be an offensive coordinator for 5 years, have the number one offense in those 5 years, as far as points and yards, go to 5 straight AFC championships. The only two that you didn't win, you lost in overtime, go to 3 Super Bowls and win two, and you don't get a job. That's impossible. That's utterly impossible. We just saw a defensive coordinator play in the Super Bowl and looked terrible and got a job immediately. All right. So, I mean, I'm just saying. So, we know some racism going on. I get it. They got Patrick Mahomes, probably the most talented quarterback we've ever seen in our life, right? They got Andy Reid, probably the best play caller in modern day history. Probably, right? But I've seen coaches coach on an offense under a play caller and still got a job. Dave, you're familiar with Mike McDaniel, right? Mike McDaniel got a job not being a play caller. We all know Matt LaFleur that's coaching Green Bay right now. He was under Sean McVay. He wasn't calling plays. He got a job immediately, and those are two good jobs they got. So we know there's some racism going on. I know that Tomo and Dave most likely are going to touch more on the racism part. So let me get to the football part, and I'll just piggyback off y'all. All right. So look, I gotta get to the football part. It's my squad right here. So look,
It's about to be good.
So look, here's the thing. I like this move. All right, I like this move. A lot of people think this is a bad situation for Eric Bieniemy. People thought that he went to the wrong place. I think otherwise. All right. So look, obviously he's going to a team, all right, that has Sam Howell as a quarterback. Not because he won the job, because the job fell in his lap. Because the other two quarterbacks played bad. All right. So Sam Howell's your starting quarterback who only played one game last year. Granted, he played okay, but that's your starting quarterback. All right. You also coached in a team, right, that had one of the worst pass blocking in the NFL last year. One of the worst in the NFL last year, right? We all know to have a great offense, you need a great offensive line. He's also going to a team that was 20th in offense last year after leaving a team that was first. A team since Ron Rivera has been a coach has averaged 19.8 points per game, which is 27th, averaged 5 yards per play, which is 29th, and 39 QB total QBR, which is 30th, with 8 different QBs. All right. And you're entering a division with all 3 of them, except you, made it to the playoffs, and one of them was a Super Bowl runner-up. All right. So, but at the same time, David and Tomo, you have a defensive coach who gave you all the duties on the offense. All right. He said you are in control of the offense. We got the defense. And guess what, Eric Bieniemy? We were number 3 defense last year. So you ain't got to worry about that. We're going to lock that down. Eric Bieniemy also runs the situation. We got the best punter in the NFL, right? Special teams on lock. All right. So we got defense check, special teams check. And then you look at the weapons we got. We got Scary Terry. Oh, you know my God, Scary Terry. The Eagles know him very well, right? Scary Terry. We got Jahan Dawson, who was leading all rookies and TDs before he got hurt. We got Curtis Samuels, a dual threat, kind of a small Debo Samuels type player. You got Brian Robinson, who played great after his injury, and you got Antonio Gibson, who's a hybrid player. We have weapons. So if Eric Bieniemy is anything he says he is, this should be a playoff team. If he's anything who he said he is, all right. And if he's able to do that, there's no way he shouldn't get a head coaching job next year. I know people are going to say, Joe, the ownership, he might not have a job. You know how new owners come, they clean house. I get it. He's betting on himself, and I like it because he knows the situation. He's betting on himself, and he's saying, if we do good offensively this year, because they've been terrible since this guy Ron's been here, there's no way you can deny me getting a head coaching job. If it is, then it's clear as day some racism going on. All right, so I love the move. Tell me your thoughts. Let's go. I think you next, David.
No. We saving David for last. They really
Okay, so
laugh.
Tombo, is it a
They
good
really
move
laugh.
for Eric
I'm gonna be
Bieniemy?
quick though. I'm gonna be quick. See, brother, I had to put the glasses on right quick, brother. See, because you said we gonna talk about it. We not gonna talk. I'm not gonna talk about the racism part of it. I'm gonna say that for my man. Even though we all can talk about the elephant in the room, because it's clear as day
Mhm.
and it's big as day. Even Dumbo can hear what's going on in the NFL. But what I need for you to do, Joe, is I don't want to burst your bubble right now, but I need you to bring it down just a little bit. You
Mhm.
at a 10 with your excitement. I need you to bring it down some because I don't want you on here week 6 and we have one of them
Mhm.
moments again when you're having a heart to heart and you're talking about Ron Rivera. If you don't win this game, you're
Okay.
done, son.
Okay.
you know, I want you to bring it down. I like everything you said and I like all the stats that you threw out there because that's just a putrid offense if you are at that rate.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Let me take these off because some people are being blinded. Uh I really love the fact that he did that he is betting on himself because it's too much he say she say going on around with is Eric Bieniemy actually good at his job or is it all Andy
Right.
Reid? It's too much. But the fact that the 3 plays that won the Super Bowl he schemed up should kind of almost like be it just enough for you to understand that this guy kind of knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you don't have to know how to ride a bike in order to hop on a bike. You know what I mean? It's just that. One thing I will say is you need a quarterback and an offensive line. Like
Mhm.
you all get that, then this could happen. Like some people don't believe in Sam Howell. I mean, if you're a Cowboy fan, you believe in Sam Howell because look what he did to them. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
he carved them up. He looked like a 4-year vet. He looked like Purdy
There
out there
it
on
is.
that last game. And again, with the weapons that you have, that's what it is. One thing I will say is, Dave, you take it away. I'll come back.
All right. Before you go there, I know you gotta give us a history lesson, all right? Now look, I'm not saying we're gonna make the playoffs. I'm not over here making bold predictions. I'm telling you, if Eric Bieniemy is anything he say he is, this should be a playoff team. That's what I'm saying. All right. So I ain't throwing no predictions out right now, y'all. Though I'm excited because he's betting on himself with us. That's why I like it. But go ahead, Dave. Talk to us.
All right. So I'm actually going to go football first, then I'm going to talk about the racism side. So football first, I compare this move to the D'Amico Ryan's hire. Um, although this is a little different because this is pretty much a lateral move. Um, and I think it's a little weird that in order for him to be able to move on to get a chance, he had to make a lateral move. I mean, Joe, you named all the things he was able to make he was able to make the AFC Championship game for 5 straight years.
Five straight.
Number one offense in points and yards for 5 straight years. Andy Reid has come out multiple times and said that he calls plays. He may not call all the plays, but he calls plays. I mean, it's Andy Reid. Andy Reid's not going to give up total control. He has a great offensive mind, so we don't expect him to give up total control. But people forget that Doug Peterson also came from this system,
Mm.
and he became a head coach.
Yep.
And he's a Super Bowl winning head coach.
There it is.
And he just went to the playoffs with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and that was their first time in the playoffs.
Mm.
So, oh, and by the way, he's white.
Oh, I didn't know.
You know who else got a head coaching job without having any play calling duties?
Talk to me.
Joe Judge, special teams
Woo!
coordinator for the Patriots. He was the head coach in New York. Now, he didn't last long, but he got an opportunity. And for the people saying that maybe he's doing bad at interviews, think about this. If he was doing bad at interviews, how come he got an OC job that fast? I mean, if he was doing bad in interviews, I don't think Washington would have brought him over here.
That's true. And game assistant coach.
He made him assistant coach, so he's not doing bad in interviews. I just think people don't want to hire him because he's black. And that's plain and simple. We've had a total of 26 head coaches in the NFL since the NFL started. First head coach in the NFL, this is where the history lesson comes from. First head coach in the NFL was Fritz Pollard. That was in 1894. He was the head coach for the Akron Pros, Milwaukee Badgers, the Hamilton Pros, and the Providence Steamrollers.
Providence. Shout out.
Providence Steamrollers, yep. After that, these are the other head coaches that have been head coaches, not interim head coaches, but head coaches in the NFL. If it was the interim, it would be about 28, 29. So you got Art Shell for the Oakland Raiders, Dennis Green for the Vikings. Y'all know Y'all know who that guy is. We are who we thought they were. That's him.
Mhm.
Dennis Green. Ray Rhodes. He was the head coach for the Eagles and the Packers. Everybody know who Tony Dungy is.
Super
Herman
Pack.
Edwards. People forget about Herman Edwards. He used to play for the Eagles, but he was a head coach for the New York Jets.
Okay.
Marvin Lewis, we know what he did in Cincinnati. Took him to the playoffs almost every single year, but he couldn't win a playoff game.
Yeah.
But he hasn't gotten a head coaching chance since then. Lovie Smith, we saw what happened to him in Houston not too long ago. He was the interim head coach for Houston. They got him out the way immediately, right after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Romeo Crennel, y'all know he was the head coach in Cleveland. And then the one we know who's been consistent in his job because the Rooney Rule was made in this place is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was the defensive coordinator for Minnesota Vikings, and he got hired, and he's been the head coach since then. Hasn't had a losing season since he's been a head coach.
Most consistent head coach in NFL.
Most consistent. More consistent than Bill Belichick.
Probably winning season.
Then you got Mike Singletary for the 49ers, Jim Caldwell for the Colts and the Lions. And we saw what happened to him. Jim Caldwell hasn't gotten an opportunity either. Raheem Morris was for the Bucks. Perry Farrell was the head coach for 1 year with the Buffalo Bills. Leslie Frazier with the Vikings. You got Todd Bowles, who's also now the head coach in Tampa Bay. He was the head coach of the Jets first. Then you got Hugh Jackson. We saw what happened to him. I kind of believe that was his fault, though. I'm not going to say that was his fault. Anthony Lynn, he was the head coach for the Bills in 2016 and for the Chargers. You got Vance Joseph. Yeah, Anthony Lynn wasn't that good. He's now the offensive. He's the running backs coach in San Francisco now. Lance Joseph, Brian Flores. We saw what happened to him. He has a pending case right now against the NFL for racism against prejudice against him and other black coaches in the NFL. Then you got David Culley with the Texans, who only was there for a year, got fired.
For a year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mike McDaniel, who just got hired by the Miami Dolphins, and he's biracial. Not saying that he's not black. I'm just saying he's biracial. Robert Saleh, biracial. And then the most recent one, D'Amico Ryans. Now, out of the 5 head coaches that got hired this year, only one was black, and that's D'Amico Ryans. And he got hired in Houston.
His hometown.
Exactly. He was a former player there, and that's home. And this is the one time I can say that a black coach was actually pursued. They went after him. Steve Wilkes was a head coach as well, but he was also an interim head coach.
He's an interim, yeah.
Yeah, he was more so an interim head coach. I don't think he was ever really the head coach. I know he was the interim head coach for the Carolina Panthers, but before then, he was the interim head coach in Arizona. He wasn't necessarily the head coach. Yeah, I think he was the interim head coach for Kingsbury. Yeah, okay. But that's all the head coaches in the NFL. I had other ones to name. There was another guy named Terry Robisky. He was the interim head coach for the Washington Redskins when they were the Redskins at the time. They're the Commanders now. And then Emmett Thomas, he was the interim head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. But for someone to have 15 interviews to become a head coach and not really get a chance, that says something to me. We've had history of a lot of white coaches or coaches, period, that aren't black that have gotten an opportunity and haven't gotten more than 1 or 2 years to get a chance. Remember what they used to say about black quarterbacks? They said black quarterbacks couldn't read defenses. Said all they wanted to do was run. And now look at what happened in the Super Bowl this year. You had 2 black quarterbacks going for a battle, and the one who didn't run as much is the one that won the game. Now, of course he ran, but he's not what you consider a running quarterback. He's a quarterback that can run. That's what Patrick Mahomes is.
David Culley style.
Yep. David Culley style. Well, that helps me out because he got hired for a year, and that was it. We really only get a chance for a year or 2, if that. D'Amico Ryans is the only one I know that has actually gotten a 6-year contract, and that's because of where he was. He was actually pursued. That's why I'm okay with him being there. But it's a little ridiculous that there's only three, four black head coaches in the NFL right now out of 32 NFL teams. So If that's not saying something, then I don't know. But
And don't forget what Josh McCown is about to coach a team after coaching a high school team. Josh McCown.
Josh McCown. I mean, if Josh McDaniels, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, was caught cheating, and he's had multiple head coaching opportunities. He was a head coach.
One.
Yeah. People forget he was hired by the Indianapolis Colts. And he snatched the contract back. It was like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to New England.
Send the facts though. They didn't even call.
And people don't forget about Chip Kelly. He was the head coach for the Eagles, and he was getting players out of there because of what? He was racist. So there you go.
And look, this food for thought before we move on. Dallas Cowboys have not yet hired a black coach. I just want to put that out.
Not yet.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all at the next episode.